There's always a question raised by the academics, is that whether we can use a single teaching and learning strategy for all the learning domains. So we know that we have three kind of learning domains over here. We have the cognitive, we have the psychomotor, we have the affective. So is it means that we should have different strategy to tackle the different learning domain? So what should we do? What are the learning strategy that is available for us to use? So in this coming video, I will explain to you the list of teaching and learning strategy that could be best suited for each of the learning domain. In this video, we'll be talking about different teaching and learning strategy for different learning domain. So I hope that at the end of this video, you'll be able to explain and determine what are the correct teaching and learning strategy for you to use for different learning domain that you have set for your course learning outcome. We know that earlier on we presented two challenges that encountered by most of the academics today. The first challenge, which is the confusion of lecturers to establish the logic between the course learning outcome and the program learning outcome, we have explained in the previous video. So in this video, we'll be focusing on identifying the right assessment and the teaching strategy to deliver the outcomes that we have designed. So we know that the mapping of CLO consists of four mappings. Yeah, first is a mapping of CLO to learning domain and mapping of the CLO to the PLO, which we already covered in the previous video. So this video we are focusing on specifically the third mapping of CLO to the teaching method. We will have the next video to cover the last mapping, which is the mapping of CLO to the assessment method. So this video we're focusing on what are the suggested teaching method to covers a different learning domain. In fact, when you're preparing a table for that time, you should know that you need to identify and then mention your specific teaching domain, teaching method, for each of your course learning outcome. Yeah, so you can see that in this is actually a screenshot from the latest table 4 format, where you also have to mention what are the teaching method that you'll be using to cover each of the CLO over here. Okay. So a quick recap. Learning domain consists of cognitive, affective, and psychomotor, and each of the domain it has a few levels, like from C1 until C6, A1 until A5, and P1 until P7 accordingly. So let's look at it one by one. Yeah. So back to our example that we used in the previous video, we have this course called Principle of Management, which is a year 1 subject. So in this course itself, it has 3 CLO. The first CLO, the keywords discussed, and then we know through the previous video, we have determined it to be measured under cognitive level number 2, C2, and then it is mapped against PO1. And subsequently, the CL2 explain, we will be mapped against C2 and PL1 as well, and lastly the CLO3, which is present, that we will be mapped against A2 and PLO5. Okay, so in this case, what is the, let me move away myself first to the top so it won't block you. Okay, so that the next step that we need to determine over here is what are the teaching technique that we should use according to this learning domain. Because of constructive alignment, we must use the right method for the right learning domain. So let's look at the example that is available. Yeah. So for cognitive wise, there are I would say that cognitive wise it will be the easiest to be measured, okay, compared to the rest. So if you look at the cognitive domain, we know that it's from C1 until C6. C1 is remember. Basically, we just want the students to recall the facts and the basic concept, while C2 is measuring on their understand level, where the students should be able to explain ideas or concept. C3 is apply, where the students should be able to use information in the new situation. C4 is analyze, where the students should be able to draw connections among the idea. C5 is evaluate, which the students should be able to justify a stand or decision, argue, and then finally the highest level, which is create, where the students should be able to produce a new or original work. Okay, so this is a Bloom taxonomy for cognitive domain from C1 until C6, and what are the expectations in each of the level. So if you look at the example that we have just now, we are measuring on C2. So C2 is basically require the students to demonstrate that they are able to understand the topic itself. So how to demonstrate it? They should be able to explain the ideas or concept in order to show that they have understand the topic. Yeah. So this table also show you some of the suggested teaching technique that you can use to cover each of the level of the learning domains over here. Anyhow, for cognitive domain, the main focus is to develop the mental skill and the acquisitions of knowledge of the individual. Okay, like for example, if you want to demonstrate understand, like what we have shown just now, understand, the technique that you can use, for example, you can use a concept map to create summary. You can ask the students to write an essay. You can use some diagram or infographic, yeah, or 1 minute paper presentation. So ask them to present their idea to show that they have understand. So this table is very useful for us because it show what are the suggested teaching and technique that you can use for each of the level. Okay, so you can refer to this table and then you'll be able to get some idea how to deliver the teaching technique accordingly so that the particular learning domain is covered. The main idea is that you must use the correct technique for each of the learning domain. Okay, so these are activities that you can incorporate during your lectures or during your tutorial or class to make sure that the learning domain is well achieved. Then the second one that we'll be looking at would be the affective domain. So affective domain would be the most difficult domain to measure among the three that we have. Cognitive, affective, psychomotor. Affective is the one that most difficult to be measured. So basically, affective domain, we are focusing on developing the students' attitude, value, and interest and appreciations of the knowledge itself. So it will be more difficult to measure. But anyhow, there are still some suggestions for you in case you want to measure at this level. Yeah. So first we have to go through the affective domain first. The affective domain consists of 5 levels from A1 until A5. So A1 basically is receiving. So receiving basically involves passively paying attention and being aware of the existence of certain ideas, phenomena, and material. Then A2 is responding, whether it's actively participating in the learning process. A3 is valuing, whether they're able to see the value and worth of something and express it. A4 is organizing, where they're able to put in together different value of information and ideas that relating them to already held belief to create their own unique system. Finally, whether they are acting consistently with the value that they have internalized. So in order to demonstrate affective domain, if you compare with cognitive, affective domain might not require many different type of teaching method, I would say. Yeah, basically you can use one methods to ask the students to demonstrate all the level from A1 until A5. Okay, why I say so? Okay, for example, if you want to demonstrate affective domain, you can use group discussion. You can form the students into a group and then let them to discuss. If you are measuring on just at the A1 level, so you should observe at the side, yeah? The lecturer should observe at the side and see whether the students are paying attention, yeah, to the topic that they are discussing or not. That could be the most simple level, A1, receiving, yeah? So you try to, in between, ask some basic question to see whether the student pay attention and know what's happening or not. Then secondly, responding. So if you see that in the group discussion that you have used just now, all the members are actively discussing the topic, yeah, actively discussing the topic, participating in the discussion, then they are demonstrating A2 level already, yeah. A1 will be just sitting there, paying attention to the topic. Then A2, they start discussing already. They start to voice up and discuss already, yeah. What about A3? Able to see the value and worth of something and express it. So A3 means that the students are able to demonstrate their own opinion and give some feedback in the discussion itself. This could be up to the A3 level. Now what about the A4 level? A4 level means that the students are able to argue, yeah, argue with different viewpoint, yeah, where they have integrated their values or information from many sources, and then able to argue and then provide a counter feedback, counter constructive feedback to their peers within the group discussion. So you can see that this is even a higher level compared to the third one, where the third one where basically we're just expressing their idea in a simple way, whether they agree or not agree, and simple explanation. But A4, it involves some debate and argue already, yeah, argue and debate with points and different knowledge that they have learned in many areas. Okay, then the last one, categorization, whether students have internalized the things that they have argued, the value that they have argued, whether they have internalized and practice it throughout the course. Okay, so this is indicating by A1 until A5. So affective domain, people say that is the most difficult domain to be measured, because you can see that by using a single method group discussion, uh, it the students' demonstration of the scale within this affective domain can be ranged from as simple as receiving, just sitting in the group without doing anything, and until A5, where they actually practice the values that they have internalized within themselves. Okay. So in order to help you on this, there are some of the suggested method where you want to measure affective domain as well. Like for example, even to measure receiving, you can use video lecture where the students sitting and then listen to your lectures, group discussion. For responding, then you can use presentation, Q&A, or whether they complete their assignments or not. And valuing, you ask them to do a self-review, do a case study, a problem-solving questions, do a report, or you conduct field trip, so that students are able to value, yeah, value with a particular object or phenomena, yeah. If organizing, then you can ask them to do a self-review, a decision making, yeah, a responsibility planning, and group project, and so on and so forth, yeah. And finally, if you want to do characterization, then you may ask them to do a logbook, a presentation, or peer preview, yeah, on this, yeah. So the focus is for students to develop their characteristics of lifestyle. So at the bottom, it will say that the focus of the learning activity itself. Like for example, if you ask them to watch a video, your focus is to getting hold of them, yeah, direct the students' attention to the video so that they are receiving. If you are focusing on responding, then you use group discussion or presentation or Q&A. Your focus is on the students' reactions to a particular phenomena. Yeah, so you have to focus on how the students actually respond to it, whether they show their interest or not. Yeah, okay. And finally, value. So value are concerned with the worth or the value the students attach to a particular object. So when in debate, you have to monitor how is the students' value about a particular topic that they are arguing about in the debate itself. Okay, if it's organizing, then the concern should be bringing together the value to resolve a particular conflict and between them. So you may ask them to do a decision making process where they have to have an initial discussion, group discussion, and finally agree on certain things and present to you on the final outcome. So this could be something that forcing them to make a decision making that will actually help them to achieve the A4 level organizing. Okay, so this is one of the table that I can share with you so that you can understand what is the purpose and the main focus of each of the learning activities that you're going to design for your students. Okay, then the next one would be the psychomotor. Yeah, psychomotor basically involves some physical and mental scale. So it has 7 levels in total, starting from perception, which focusing on whether the students are able to use a sensory cue to guide their physical activities. Then the second one would be set, which focusing on their readiness to act. Guided response in the earlier stage in the learning complex skill that include imitation and trial and error. Guided response, like for example, you may guide the students to perform a certain particular behavior or skills like cooking or using a specific software. Yeah, mechanism means that they have the basic proficiency already. They're able to perform a complex motor skill. So without the guidance from the lecturers, the students basically able to use the software at the basic proficiency level. This is mechanism. So the difference between mechanism and guided response is that guided response the presence of the lecturer is available over there. It's either the lecturer present physically, or the lecturer actually provided some notes or guides for the students, yeah, for them to follow. Okay, so the guided response focus on the imitation, means that whether the students can follow a specific instructions, conduct a specific skill. While mechanism means that they basically able to perform the complete motor skill at a basic proficiency level. Complex overt response means that they are able to perform the skill at a more skillful level. Then adaptation means that they are even more skillful. They're able to adapt their skill according to the different environment. And finally, origination, where the students are able to create a new movement pattern. Yeah. So if you want to understand it is easier, maybe you can take it from the example. If you are involved in the culinary program, so the perception level will be the students are able to use their hands to feel the right heat for the stove. Yeah, maybe they want to they want to cook a steak, so they want to know what are the right temperature before you put in the butter and the meat itself. So they will use their hand to feel the heat. So this will be the first step at the perception level. Yeah, perception level. Then at the set level means that the students know how to use their hand to measure the heat, able to use their vision to know that how many oil they should put in, and observe the environment before they start the action. So this is the level set, where they are able to combine all the sensory cue to determine when or is this ready to act. Okay, this is set. Then the number 3 is very simple, whether they're able to cook by following the recipe book. Yeah, if they're able to follow the recipe book and cook a dish, that means that it's at a guided response level. Then mechanism means that without the recipe book, they manage to cook the dish, but maybe not so delicious, but it's acceptable level because it's indicated by basic proficiency. Then the P5, complex overt response. This is a skillful performance where the students able to cook without referring to the recipe book, and then the outcome is a delicious dish produced. Okay. Then adaptation is even more higher level, whether the students is able to adapt and tune the recipe, the original recipe that they learn according to the different customer taste. Like for example, there is a customers coming in saying that, okay, I don't like to eat capsicum, or I don't like spicy food. I want I want it to be taste more sweet and then less salty, something like that. Then the students is able to adapt it to this new or ad hoc requirement. So that's called the adaptation level. Origination is even higher, where the students can come up with their own recipe. Yeah? They come up with a new dish, a fusion dish between the Western and the Eastern food. They fuse it together, become a fusion food. This will be the highest level of skill that students demonstrating, a creative proficiency. Yeah, we're able to come up with new patterns. So this is indicated by the 7th level. So if you want to measure at the psychomotor skill at the time, you should know that which specific level that you want the students to perform. Then you have to explain to them clearly. Yeah, because psychomotor, you can use a simple measurement or the learning activities to help the students. Yeah, for example, like if perception over here, you may just ask the students to adjust the heat to the correct temperature by smell and taste the food. Yeah, set, you may ask the students to show demonstrate something where they know and how to act according to a sequence of steps in the process. Like for example, you should tell the students to evaluate the environment and tell you when they can start cooking. Yeah, by feeling the heat, looking at the right temperature, and then the amount of food available and the ingredients, whether all is ready. That's called set. Yeah. Guided response means that you may ask the students to follow the instructions to build a model or to complete a certain task. You may ask the students to follow instructions to complete a data analysis. Yeah, you give them the guide. So this could be the example if you want to test at the P3 level guided response. Mechanism wise means that the students are not given a guide. You ask the students to perform using the SPSS to perform correlation analysis without looking at the manual, something like that. Yeah, complex over response means that you will ask the students to demonstrate some competency, yeah, when doing a specific things. So you can see that whether the students are able to use SPSS to perform correlation analysis in a confident and fast way. It means that in a very fast, you just know where to click the button, everything, and then perform the analysis. If you compare the mechanism, the students might be a little bit of not so confident and take more times, yeah, to get the things done. But complex over response means that the students actually have a level of confidence, and then they can get the things done quickly and accurately. So this is an example how you can measure at this level, which is P5. If you go to P6, then you may want them to respond to a unexpected experience. Like for example, you may ask the students to still perform the correlation analysis using the SPSS, but in this case, you have some outliers, numbers, or missing values that you want the students to tackle, but without telling them. Yeah, so the students should know how to go back for data cleaning before they can come for the correlation analysis, for example. Yeah, so basically at this level P6 adaptation, you are giving them some unexpected environment and see whether the students know how to react accordingly or not. Then lastly, origination, whether the students are able to come up with a new theory and develop a new comprehensive training programs or not after they have achieved all the level. Yeah, so basically you can see that for psychomotor, it could be one activities, but again, depends on the level that you want to test and then increase the complexity of the task itself. So if you have gone through the 3 level, cognitive, affective, and psychomotor, now you know that why people say that cognitive domain will be the most easiest to be measured, and subsequently, affective domain would be the most difficult to be measured. So I believe that you go through this video, you will tend to agree to this common understanding on how are we going to measure the domain and the difficulty in measuring each of the domain. Yeah. Okay. So once you have decided your course learning outcome and the domain, and then going through the videos that I show you just now, basically you will know what a teaching method that you should use already. Okay. So like for example, come back to our this example over here, principle of management year 1 subject. So the first year always discuss, measure at C2, cognitive 2. Yeah, cognitive 2 is basically understand. Then we can use teaching method, a group discussion. Yeah, so it's mentioned over here. Then for explain, yeah, C2 as well, we may use a lecture to explain to the students the key concept. And C3 is present. So present, we can use tutorial, yeah, where the students can do their presentation during the tutorial, and so on and so forth. So this is what we call the constructive alignment between the course learning outcome, which is particularly the learning domain, with the teaching method. Yeah, so the teaching method here is not simply we mention based on our past experience or anything. Yeah, we are supposed to be guided by the correct methods that or suggested method to be used to measure the specific learning domain. So this is a key concept in constructive alignment. Okay, so in our next video, we'll be covering the second part, yeah, the assessment method. So you can see that each of the learning outcome is not only mapped to the learning domain, teaching method, we also have the assessment method. So in our next video, we will be talking about the different assessment strategy that we can use for different learning domains.